Rolling. Hi, I'm Dory. This is my first ever YouTube video. My plan for today is to make some Valentine cards. So I did a blog post on Sunday about some things that I did on vacation. I went to Puerto Vallarta with a girlfriend and we were there for 16 days, and I knew that I was going to have some crafting time. We were going to stay at, we went to a conference for 3 of the days, and then the rest of the time was playtime. But I knew I was going to have to craft. So I packed up a adorable little roll that my daughter made for me for my paintbrushes, and I took a couple of little small palettes and filled them with all my favorite colors, and cut up some pieces of watercolor paper, my Arteza cold pressed 140 pound, and that was it. And turns out that was enough for me. So I watched a video. It was Ellen Creamy Trent, and she was doing some Valentine, easy watercolor Valentines, and I realized that I have a whole bunch of grandkids that I can make Valentines for. And I am very much a newcomer at watercolor. I think I picked up a watercolor brush and a set of paints maybe last August. Anyway, I watched this video of some Valentines that Ellen had done, so I cut some of my pieces of watercolor paper into further smaller pieces and painted, I think, about 10 panels. Love making cards, and that will probably be a lot of what I do on my channel. I'm going to take you into my craft room and we are going to make some Valentine cards for all my babies. Okay? Here are the panels that I painted for my watercolor Valentines. I did a total of 11, and the 3 floral bouquets are the Valentines that I painted after being inspired by Ellen Creamy Trent's video. I will link to that down below so you can go take a look at it. I didn't have any of the kids in mind while I was painting these, other than that I painted the teddy bear for Wesley and I painted the bunny for Willow. And other than that, I just painted what kind of popped into my head, and without thinking of what the Valentine was going to look afterwards. This was such an easy project just to grab and take down by the pool or even down to the beach and work on. It was great. I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the cards now, starting with cutting these up. I actually spent a bit of time measuring out the distance between the hearts and the height of the space in between the hearts, and then ended up cutting them out. But I just I couldn't come up with any ideas for how to put the picture of 6 hearts backed up onto a card. So I cut them out, and I'll figure out what to do with them later. While I was at it, I went ahead and decided that I was going to cut up the geometric heart that I painted. And again, not knowing what I'm going to do with it, but not liking it being painted the way it was. The first card that I'm going to make is going to be Willow's bunny. I got the January kit from Hero Arts, and it included it's a beautiful kit. I haven't had a chance to do anything with it other than to grab the Happy Valentine's Day stamp out of the stamp set. It also came with this beautiful pink glitter ink, and I believe that that's a Hero Arts. No, it's not ink, it's embossing powder. I used my, you know what that sticky ink is called, Versamark, and stamped out Happy Valentine's Day on the bottom of the card, embossed it with the pink embossing powder, and used my foam tape to pop the card up. I used Crocodile to use around the corners of the panel and the card itself. I always like to put a full backing of the of the dimensional foam on the back of my cards, just to keep it all consistent. On Wesley's teddy bear, I took the XOXO out of the same Hero Arts kit and stamped that onto the teddy bear's heart that he's holding. And I used some Hero Arts Intense black ink to do the Happy Valentine's Day, and got some clear embossing powder on that fast enough. I popped this one up with dimensional tape too, but I didn't like it on the white cardstock because watercolor paper is not white. Well, you can get white, but the stuff that I buy is generally a little bit off-white. So I used some festive berries and some I don't remember the other name of that color. And then I used my scoring board to make some lines. I've seen G to K do that a number of times in various ways. She just has such a bunch of really clever ideas. So I used that to make some lines on the card base, and I went in after the fact. I wish I would have used paint to paint the shadow underneath him, but I used some alcohol markers. For this Love You card, it's just a watercolor wash, and I painted Love You with gold gouache by Arteza. I stamped Happy Valentine's Day on the bottom of this card with Brutus Monroe, and I think it's called Gilded is the embossing powder. I've been really lucky and have been forgetting to use the embossing pal that takes the static and grease off, and haven't had any issues, but I decided to go ahead and cut this down because I'm gonna on my card base I'm going to put some more of the gold embossing powder on it, and I wanted to have a nice size border to do that. So I took my card base, took the Versamark ink and rubbed it haphazardly around all four edges of the card, and sprinkled the gilded embossing powder on it, and took my heat gun to it and melted it up, and it looked great. I think I adhered this directly to the card base, and then I added a few sequins, and I could not tell you who the sequins are by. I keep all my go-to sequins and gems in a little ceramic egg crate from when I had chickens. Actually, this tape is an old Creative Memories tape runner refill, and it just happened to be sitting on my desk, so I used it. I put a lot of tape on the back because when you use A, when you put that much water on it to do a wash, and B, when you use your embossing powder and heat gun, you warp the paper a little bit, and all that tape held it down nice and flat. There's my egg crate. So I had some pretty pale pink sequins and some gold sequins, and I pulled those out, and then I spotted one little gold star, and so I pulled that out and stuck that on there. I used Tombow mono multi glue to adhere everything down, and for some reason my glue is not coming out in nice little tidy dots. It's been like squirting out of the end of the container. The next one I used it's a Pink Fresh die set. It's called Pretty Frames, and it die cuts 2 separate frames for a total of 5 pieces. I used the cardstock that came in that Hero Arts kit. It's some textured, well, I can't think of what that's called. It's kind of shiny, kind of shimmery. And so I used the dark pink for the outside frames, and I used light pink for the inner pink frame, and then adhered it all over top of one of the flower bouquets, heart bouquets. So because I had because my craft room is a mess, I had to make a bunch of card bases on the spur of the moment, and so when I do it hurriedly and don't have them on the ready, I end up with crooked sides, and they're a little wonky, so I had to cut it down. I used the Hero Arts kit also had in the dies one of the double reverse, I don't know what you call those banner dies, but you know, with the reverse arrow. The first time I tried it, I stamped it first, and when I ran it through to, it's actually only got one side with the indentation on it and the other side is flat, so I wanted to have both sides to have the indentation. And when I ran it through the second time, it shifted and I messed up my little banner, so I did it over, and this time I cut the banner out first and then did the stamping and embossing on it, and I stamped once again Happy Valentine's Day. I popped that up with some adhesive foam. So I ended up having to do the last 3 Valentines off camera because this video was going to be about a day long if I didn't cut it off at some point. So I'm done though, so I'm going to show you what I did. This was the panel that had 6 hearts painted on it, and I cut them out, and I ended up only using 4 on this one. This love die is the free with 60, or at least it was when I bought my order from My Favorite Things a couple weeks ago. And I cut out the frame using 2 different dies, 2 different stitch dies. Can't tell you right off the top who made those, but anyway, I heat embossed Happy Valentine's Day using the Brutus Monroe Gilded ultrafine embossing powder. The paper that I cut the frame out of is some Tim Holtz metallic cardstock that my sister gave me around Christmas time. She just gave me a few pieces out of her tablet. Okay, that card is for Aiden. This card is the one I had painted, the geometric heart. I cut it out. I using that same Tim Holtz metallic cardstock. I cut a heart out around that heart. Heat embossed Happy Valentine's Day XOXO from the Hero Art set using Brutus Monroe Gilded. I threw a little metallic thread, which is DMC Diamant. This is, oh, that one's for Hunter. This is for Sophia. Luckily they don't watch YouTube. Or luckily they'll probably have these long before this YouTube is ever done. Anyway, this is for Sophia. Same Tim Holtz cardstock. I did the balloon strings to read You Are Loved. These are some out of my stash. Don't know who made these, because I just have all of my, well, not all of my, I have a bajillion sequins, but I have the ones that I reach for most in this little egg container for when I used to have chickens. Painted using some, actually this is some new paint that I bought when I was in Palm Springs in December. No, it was the first of the year. Not Van Gogh. Is it Picasso paints? Is there such a thing? Anyway, I got some new paints. That is my favorite Daniel Smith. Quinacridine Rose. This is a new one, and that is Indian Throne Blue. Happy Valentine's Day, Brutus Monroe. This one, Love You, Happy Valentine's Day, is for Mari. I just painted the Love You on there. I think I did this on camera, so you don't need to see that one. Again, this is one of the ones I did off camera. This is the Hero Arts cardstock in 2 colors. I used the frame set from Pink Fresh called Pretty Frames. I actually used this in its entirety. This dark one has, that's 3 separate pieces you can use. These holes do punch out if you want. It's kind of a cool little set. That's that. I did use the die cut, the die from that Hero Art set. And then here is Wesley's. Oh, sorry. That's for Carmen. This one's for Wesley. Teddy bear I just drew out and painted. Trying to learn to do, you know, shadowing where it's supposed to be a little bit. I'm very much a beginner watercolor person. And this is for Willow. I should probably give him a shadow so he's not just floating in the air. Not that any kid ever looks at it and goes, oh grandma, that looks like the bunny's floating in the air. But I will, because you never know. My grandkids are smart. Anyway, that's my Valentine's cards made from the panels that I painted while I was in Puerto Vallarta last month. Gotta bring my art supplies when I go any place, even if it's for 2 days. I bring something to do. And I am now finished with this. I hope I can make another video and I can see you again. Thank you, bye.